What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York, invading California for Namm 2020, and we are here with Andrew of The Last in Line. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's so great to have you here. You're well into the record cycle for 2, which came out, in 2019. You want to talk about how the making of this record was and how the record cycle for it's been thus far and everything?
The making of it was a little stressful, honestly. It was we did half of it in California, and then we retreated from California. Hence the invasion. We retreated, and I went to finish it up in Vegas at my studio at my home. So at my house, yeah.
And what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
It gets a little more. Believe it or not, there's a little more focus in Vegas. So yeah, so I got to finished it up there. It's a little longer writing process than I'm used to or comfortable with. So it was a little stressful, but we got it done, and we had to deal with some schedules, and which we always have to deal with people's schedules with this. The producer was in Foreigner. He's a bass player in Foreigner. Vivian's in Leopard. It's just those guys tour all the time, so it was really hard to get that done. But we prevailed. So
being that The Last in Line, has you and members of Dio and so many just other projects, was the initial idea to maybe have The Last in Line combined all your different projects together, or did you guys try to do something you never really did before? I
think with the first record we tried to I don't want to say emulate, but just kind of build on the Dio legacy with some of the songs that we did. They kind of came from the same place, writing from you have the three. We had the three guys that were basically the foundation of those records, and wrote all those songs. So it wasn't too much of a stretch. So, and I think they wanted to write in that vein. And honestly, there was no intention of ever doing a record. There was no intention of ever doing a second record after the first one. There's no intention of there's no intention of doing anything beyond the moment with this band, and that's. It's a weird place to live, you know what I mean? But we put everything into it, and then we start the third one. We start on Monday. We're going to start with, so we were recording all week, and
you're starting another record.
Monday, yeah.
Do you go into the songwriting process with a preconceived idea of how you want it to do, or is there a lot of improvising and more of an organic process?
It's very organic now. We're not really trying to be anything but who we are. I do. Still, that being said, I do stay in the parameters of, what I think our audience is, but I don't think we really know what our audience is, because we have, we have the Sabbath connection, we have the Rainbow connection, we have the, the Leopard connection, and a lot of our audience comes from the Leopard audience, and the Dio audience as well. But there's a whole new audience that's coming, so trying to keep it where I'm not writing about chicks and cars, you know what I mean? Like a typical 80s record would be, you would think. But I try to keep it thought-provoking. It's not very fantasy-oriented lyric-wise. It's more, what's going on today, more from a street perspective.
A moment.
Yeah, more of a street perspective, like a real person perspective, not, rainbows and, unicorns and
pizzas and blowjobs.
Dragons. Yeah, pizzas and blowjobs. I'm great with that, but, don't really write about it, so.
Yeah, maybe you got some ideas.
I might write an abstract song about a pizza someday, but we'll see. You never know.
So one thing I was curious about is, because correct me if I'm wrong, but I know you played a couple shows with The Offspring. Yep, and is when it comes to making music, does each project call for a new approach? Is it a separate mind frame, or is there a usual method behind the madness?
I mean, I think you got to be cognizant of what the audience is, what the audience is expecting, and the songs that came before, and trying to keep up with those songs. Not maybe keep up with them, but something that can sit alongside of it, and luckily you have 11 tries, usually 11 to 12 tries on every record to make a song or two songs that are going to be big, that are going to do that and sit in, like a song from the first record, Devil in Me, sits really well with the Dio stuff. We have a good amount of songs that sit in with the Dio stuff that people seem to think they do, and the band likes. So yeah, I think you have to be aware of it, but it can't control you, because then you're just sitting there going, oh God, I have to fit in this box, and I don't want to. The idea of when I write is just to write. You just got to write and then sort it out later. So if there's a word in there that doesn't fit the metal, idea, or it's not something that I really want to promote or say, then I'll change it later on. But I just like getting the ideas down. So.
Do you need to put yourself in a certain element in order to get inspired to write, or do you sometimes just come up with inspiration out of nowhere?
I need to get it into a certain headspace, because as I said, I have a home studio, and I do a lot of work in there, but sometimes I don't want to go into that room, because once I go in that room, I'm going to be in there for 3 days. You know what I mean? Once I start working on something and I get into mode, Jesus.
Don't worry.
Yeah, that was God telling us to knock it off. So, getting into that headspace, sometimes I'm not real cool with getting in it because it takes a lot of time. But once I'm in it, So, anyway.
How do you know when a song is done?
I don't. I try to cut it off. You know what I mean? I'll send it out. Say, this isn't by any means finished, but I want you to hear where it's at, and then I'll get some feedback from the guys in the band and go from there. So.
And I have 2 more questions for you, because I have yet to see you guys live. I'm really ashamed I missed the Sony Hall show,
Yeah.
but when it comes to like playing live, would you consider playing live like a completely separate strategy than just simply songwriting? Because you have to focus on crowd interaction and some stage banter here and there, or is there maybe like a similar fulfillment or similar energy between songwriting and playing live?
Songwriting, you can kind of sit back for 2 hours and just cut your thoughts together. With the show, it's like, all right, let's do this. We got to get in there. It's like going into a football game, or going into any sort of like a sporting event. I guess that's the best way to kind of put it. Like it's fight or dance time. It's time to get in there and you got to deliver. So there's not a lot of time to reflect on what you're doing. Whereas when you're writing songs, you can put an idea down and then sit with it for 3 days and then come back and change it if you don't like it. So they're 2 different animals. But again, you can't really have one without the other. You got to spend the time to make your, like for me, for lyrics and stuff, to make the lyrics effective and catchy and first line of every song for me has got to catch somebody's ear. Yeah. Always got to catch their ear, because if it doesn't, you might lose them. You got 30 seconds, maybe less, 15 seconds to catch somebody's ear, and if you don't, you're screwed. So
yeah, you only get one chance to make a first impression, and that kind of like, you brought up a good point. Like when you write something, you're writing something knowing this is an intro, this is a chorus, this is the bridge. Like it's not like you write a bunch of random stuff and just piece it together.
Sure, right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
And one final question, if you're cool with it, one little fanboy question. Tell me just about being a voice actor for Nickelodeon back in the day.
I didn't do a ton of stuff for them, but I did. I worked at a recording studio in Manhattan, and we did a lot of work with Nickelodeon and Disney, and we did a lot of TV and film, post production audio, and at times there was little parts that I was an engineer at the studio, so there were times where you just pop in and do different things. So I think the biggest one I did was on a show called Kablam. Yeah, and I played Zach Hansen. The Hansen brothers. So I played Zach. It was like a show about a special performing arts, school that all these guys went to that were popular at the time. So I did a little bop like parody and sang that in the show. So that's my claim to fame as a voice actor. So
hey, Sebastian Bach did a voice for a SpongeBob character. So.
He is like a SpongeBob character, isn't he?
I think
and also awesome. So.
So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time today. Is there just anything else you would like to promote for The Last in Line? You said you're working on some new music. Yeah. Any live shows coming up that you're allowed to say?
Yeah, we have about 5 or 6 shows this year that we're doing that are just U.S. shows, and then we're pretty much done with this album cycle, and then we'll start the next one. Vivian's out with Leopard and Motley Crue in the summer, so we're not really going to be doing much this year. But we're working on the record now so that it will be ready for 2021. So, awesome. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Everybody, Andrew Freeman of The Last in Line. New stuff coming soon. Oh yeah, we forgot to bring that up. Shout out to my dad. Shout out to my dad for introducing us.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yep. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York, Namm 2020.